Right, today we're underneath the VX and we're going to change the sump gasket. I've already undone everything. Obviously the first thing you do when you do this is drain your oil out. And like I said, I've already undone everything. I've let all the oil drip out overnight, so everything's sort of dry, so hopefully we shouldn't get any oil on us. So the first thing is you get, having drained your oil, and also take off your oil filter because it will release a lot more oil from the pickup tube, which you don't want dropping out afterwards. And you're going to change your oil filter anyway, since you're going to changing your oil. You have a lot of these bolts on there, which are E8s that fit in here. So remove those. Once you've removed those, highly unlikely that your sump will just fall off, because the gasket will be sort of stuck and giving some adhesion there. So once you've removed all those, then your sump gasket will come off. So when you remove it, don't let it just drop, because it's still got a connection there. Okay, now this is the pickup tube I was talking about. So if you now take off your oil filter, a lot of more oil that's trapped up in this pipe will fall down. So you don't want to mess up your driveway or your garage doing that. So the next thing now that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing these two bolts here to remove this, so keep that away so I can take the sump out. I can clean up the mating surfaces here, and also there's a lot of gasket up there, so I'll use a little scraper, thin scraper, just to scrape it off, maybe a knife blade or something. Obviously you don't want to scratch these surfaces, so don't use any emery paper or files or anything like that. And then it'll be a simple case of putting the gasket on. So this is an E10 socket that fits there, in case you want to see how it comes off. Not exactly exciting, but nevertheless. One off there. There you go. When you put it back, remember which way around it goes. I don't think it makes a huge difference, but it is that way around. And you have a little there. Okay. So that's away, so now I can clean it all up, meaning the sump and the mating surfaces, and I'll apply my gasket. Okay, so I've cleaned up my sump, but I saw a lot of surface rust, so I've got a wire brush on a drill, one of these circular things, and cleaned up all the rust, got all the rust off, and now I think I'm going to paint it first, and then put it back on. Okay, so my sump cover, or my sump, has been cleaned and sprayed. Got all rid of all that rust. Inside is all clean, as it's going to be. Mating surfaces are clean. And on the engine side, you can see we've cleaned up the mating surface there. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy. Took a bit of rubbing with a Stanley knife blade. You have to persevere, I think. And I use a bit of brake cleaner as well to help get rid of the old gasket paper. So now we're going to install. Going to first of all bolt the oil sender back in, put the gasket on, and then away we go. Actually put the gasket on and then bolt the oil sender back in. Before I bolt the oil sender into there, obviously got to put the gasket on, otherwise I won't be able to get the gasket on afterwards. So we remembered how the wire for the oil sender was closest to the sump wall, so I'm just going to put that in now and get the bolts in. Let's have a look. That's one in. Let's get the other one in. I'll just get my spanner. Like I said, this was an E10 size. I'm just going to nip this with the ratchet, just nip. I'm not going to do anything super tight or anything like that. Okay, just get one of these bolts in there, just help me. Oopsie daisy, let's get in the right one. Okay, and then the next one. And basically you just go around. So I'm just going to do that, and then we'll talk about how we nip it up. Okay, so I've put all the bolts in. Having done that, I think that maybe it would have been a better idea if I'd put the gasket on first, onto the sump, put all the bolts through, because I had a little bit of problem aligning the gasket holes with the holes into which the bolt goes into. So it would have been better if I put the gasket on, put the bolts in, and then offered up the sump to the engine. I don't think the bolts would have fallen out because the gasket would have held them in. Anyway, so they're all very extremely loose. So we're just going to I'm not tightening at all. If you ask why I'm missing one each time, I don't know. Just right, let's get all of that done. And these bolts that I'm now tightening, what I did was I cleaned them all up before I reused them. Although I'm not actually tightening them, I'm just seating it all up nice and gently. Yeah, I cleaned them all up, and then I just coated them in a bit of ACF 50 so they don't rust up. They're quite little bolts, they rust up. Seizing that, I would think that they would shear off quite easily. Now I don't know the torque setting for these, but given the fact that it's a gasket and it has a little rubber seal on the gasket as well on the edging, and the bolts are small, you want to just nip them up really. Just doing every other one now. These ones are slightly loose, and basically work your way around nice and gently so the gasket gets pressured evenly. And it's not a head gasket or anything like that, but now I'm doing it. Yeah, see, they're all loose now. So this is doing what I wanted it to do. Done nice and okay. They're all everything's now tight. Yep. That's without putting any torque on it. I'm just doing it with this, with my hand, my wrist. Okay, that's good. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the ratchet on there. Again, tiny little one, obviously, so we're not trying to put a lot of pressure on this at all. And just go around with a little touch. I mean, basically you don't want it vibration knocking them loose and them coming off. The gasket will hold the oil, keep that seat in. Actually, I think sometimes it's better if it was had it a little bit, found out there was a little seepage, I could tighten it up a little bit. Well, the best way is that there's nothing, no seepage. So I'm doing the alternate ones now. Go around, a little loose. So you can see I'm not doing much on there at all. Right, let's tighten up. Back to the, let me start from, oh, I think that's about as tight as I'm going to do them now. Nipping them up now. Maybe I should get a torque wrench and see how much torque I've got on there. I'll do that after I've done them all, and I'll let you know. They're all tight now. Yeah. Put my other hand on it so that I don't put too much pressure, so I'm just controlling myself. Alright, just going to back to the first one, see what it's like. Yeah, that's fine. Right, so that's it. I'm going to get a torque wrench and just see if I can work out what torque it is, so I'll pause it there and let you know. Right, I applied my torque wrench, and the lowest my torque wrench goes is to 19 Newton meters, or what's that? Yeah, 19 Newton meters, so I need a smaller torque wrench. And basically that's, the torque is a lot less than 19, so don't use a torque wrench. Just use your hand, do it exactly as you saw me doing, that's fine. And you can inspect it afterwards, after you've filled it up with oil and given the car, you know, 10-15 miles, and have a look at it, see what's happening. Right, so there you go, sump done. That was a rusty sump in certain parts. The nuts were a bit rusty, took them off. We've got the sump gasket out, put a new sump gasket in, cleaned it all up, took all the rust off, primed it, sprayed it, and I did my sump plug in green and Kawasaki green as well. Alright, hope that was useful.